Make untraceable private phone calls. Learn about caller ID spoof services and more. Privacy is important to everyone. There are numerous debates floating around as to how much privacy is a legitimate right, what entails a breach, and how one can protect oneself from infringement. With instant connectivity and the rapid technological advances made in collecting and storing data, it is getting quite difficult to remain private. We're talking here about how you can mask your telephone number and make an untraceable phone call in the steps listed below. From masking phone numbers to using caller ID spoof services, use these tricks to learn how to make untraceable calls. Step 1: Masking telephone numbers. In these days of caller ID and other means of tracing, there is no foolproof method of making an untraceable call. What you can do instead is mask your telephone number from the person you're dialing, so that yours shows up as unidentified. You can do this by dialing *67 on the keypad before dialing the number you want. This will prevent your telephone number from appearing on the receiver's caller ID. But, the private call can still be traced by the recipient if they use automatic number notification, (ONNA). This is a service used by 911 and numbers beginning with the 800 and 900 series. Another way of finding out where an untraceable phone call came from is to press *57 after the line is disconnected. Step 2: Using soft phones. Another way to avoid someone tracing your number by either ONNA or by *57 is to make the call from a soft phone. A soft phone is a piece of software, which uses the Internet to dial out. Use a proxy server along with the soft phone program to further lessen the chances. The downside of this method is that calls can be traced through the service of subpoenas to the Internet Service Provider, ISP, and the latter is bound by law to release IP addresses as required. Step 3: Use payphones or prepaid cell phones. You can expect some amount of anonymity if you use public payphones or even prepaid cell phones, which can be discarded once you've made a few calls. Any disadvantages to making private calls with these methods? Most payphones these days are under camera security. Cell phone locations can be traced by triangulation methods used by the mobile service providers. Step 4: Using caller ID spoofing services. Check out phone spoofing services such as Spoof Card, which provide calling cards to make anonymous, untraceable calls. These services are in high demand because they provide legal means of securing privacy in communications and are mostly used by enforcement authorities, local and federal government services, businesses, etc. This calling card can be used by anyone with any kind of telephone to make untraceable calls, by displaying numbers that are different from the actual telephone number and hence, guaranteeing anonymity. With help from these guidelines listed above, you should be in a relatively secure position to maintain your privacy when making telephone calls. However, it is important to make such calls that are legitimate and legal. Otherwise, all bets are off.